Fort Kent, Maine, the south bank of the St. John River, is named for the fort that once guarded this peaceful outpost from Canadian aggression. Today, the town survives on the trickle of the cross-border trade with Canada. US 1 is the main artery for that trade and the town's main street.
We are the beginning of US Route 1. This is where the heart and soul of US Route 1 is. This is where, if you think top to bottom, we're the top, so I say we're the beginning of US Route 1.
Fort Kent was designated the starting point of US 1 in November of 1926. Fort Kent's designation was the work of the Bureau of Roads, headed by engineer E.W. James. It was his job to organize the confusion of highways, tracks, and roads that crisscrossed America into a coherent system.
It dawned on me that the U.S. is twice as wide as it is from north to south. And with this, I saw a complete pattern of just what I wished. It stares one in the face. It is so simple and adjustable.
Roads that went north to south would have odd numbers. East to west, even. And he started numbering on the East Coast. James named the road from Maine to Florida US 1.
If someone comes from another country and they say, "Show me America," I show them Route 1. It's a microcosm of America, all the good and bad parts about this country, about this great country on one highway.
But while the new number designated a single road, in truth, US 1 was anything but.
Route 1 was not built at one time. It's sort of it's a collection of roads that were already in place, plus new sections of the highway that were built to sort of connect it all together. So it was a highway with a sort of a hodgepodge history.
A hodgepodge that on November 11th, 1926, was emblazoned with a brand new symbol.
Route 1 is just so perfect. The shield is just that number 1 smack in the center of it.
It was a road that was more than 2 centuries in the making. A road that bound together different towns and states, different cultures, and distinct landscapes into a colorful fabric. A decade before the creation of US 1, no one in the rest of the country knew or much cared about Fort Kent. The border between the U.S. and Canada was rarely monitored, let alone guarded. But that all changed on January 17, 1920. On that day, the production, transportation, and consumption of intoxicating liquors was outlawed. Prohibition had begun. But while alcohol was banned in the U.S., it was legal in Canada. Suddenly, Fort Kent had a new industry, smuggling booze.
There were pretty fabulous profits to be made in the rum running business, and I suspect that at some point people came to realize that this was very attractive, and they took advantage of it.
One of the first to start a new career was Fort Kent native Jed Daigle. Daigle was a potato farmer and lumberjack. His 190-acre farm ran alongside Route 1.
My father quickly learned that he could make a better living being a bootlegger than he could being a farmer. So he was one of the, I would say, bigger bootleggers in the area.
The first task of the would-be bootlegger was to smuggle alcohol from Canada across the St. John River. It was very risky, but the demand for booze drove many in Fort Kent to take the risk.
When the river was frozen, they even used their horses and buggies to go right over it. And in the summertime, they used canoes to get over.
But with smuggling came law enforcement. To get around the border guards, the humble folks of Fort Kent developed their own secret codes.
One way of communicating was through flag waving. Someone on the opposite shore, so to speak, would wave a red flag or a white flag, whether it was safe or dangerous.
Once the liquor arrived on the American side, it was smuggled through the woods and hidden throughout town.
They were very clever in finding ways of concealing it. One person would take it from point A to B, and then someone else would take it from point B to C, And in our barn on the farm, there was sort of a secret area in the haymow.
My mother told me she had 3 bottles of liquor in her bedroom. And the spotters came in unexpected. She said, I can't throw them out, and just drain them out too much money. So anyway, what she did is she took her shawl and a baby and she put the bottles inside the shawl, okay? And then she wrapped it up and she came out back in the kitchen as if she was nursing.
But smuggling illegal booze across the river and hiding it in town was just the beginning. In order to make the big bucks, the people of Fort Kent still had to get their product to the customers. And they were hundreds of miles away in the big cities down south. Driving cars called tankers with false compartments that hid the alcohol, the bootleggers raced down a road where the main dangers were wandering moose and axle-shattering potholes. But in 1926, when the Bureau of Roads decided that Fort Kent would be the beginning of US 1, things began to change. Improvements made to the newly designated road made smuggling booze that much easier.
There probably could not have been any kind of rum running. US 1 made all the difference, there's no doubt about it.
But it also brought greater law enforcement. To counter this increased scrutiny, the bootleggers designed elaborate plots to fool the federal agents. Perhaps the biggest and most elaborate was devised by a local smuggler named Fred Levesque. When Levesque learned that a well-known Catholic bishop from southern Maine had died, he saw the bishop's upcoming funeral as an opportunity.
Fred Levesque and one of his associates called the customs to inform them that there would be this long cortege of priests and nuns and bishops, etc., who would be coming through to attend a funeral in Portland.
On the day of the funeral, the customs agents looked out to see Levesque and a long line of cars approaching the border. Respectful of the mourners, the agents waved them all through without stopping a single car.
This cortege showed up with priests and bishops and nuns, and Fred had over 70 automobiles, all big cars with artificial tanks, and they were carrying alcohol in those tanks, and I'm told that in fact even the coffin was full of alcohol.
Fort Kent's most lucrative industry lasted until 1933, when the government finally found a way to beat the smugglers. It legalized alcohol. Just as suddenly as it had begun, the demand for contraband booze ended. The cargo on US 1 went from hidden tanks of bathtub gin to timber and potatoes. The road to easy money went back to being the road through town. All that was left of those wild days were the memories, to be shared along the once again quiet main street of Fort Kent.